Hello, everyone. This is One Day at a Time podcast. It captures the challenges we face daily and what we learn or not learn from it. My name is Uche Agbai, or Sensei Uche. Welcome.
We are the wind in the sails of your business. We are your compass. Chart your course towards your targets. Africa Business Radio. Towards a profitable Africa.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to One Day at a Time. The podcast is about learning or not learning to deal with challenges that you face every day. My name is Uche Agbai, Sensei Uche in the media space. And my journey through beating cancer is what I am detailing episode after episode for you to find strength through the challenges that you face every single day. Okay, I'm glad that you are listening to this episode, and please go ahead and listen to previous episodes and get the full story, and then you continue the journey with me. I am glad to have this person, my guest on the show today. He's a maverick. He is a trailblazer. He is an inspiration. That's the thing. So I can't even say this is what this person does, because in music, he is a 5-star artist. In production, he's a record label. He is an actor. He is a, Banky W. I know that. Yes. Like, I can't, there are no words. There are no words to describe you, sir. I'm fine. Thank you very much. You see, I can't even put my words together, Banky, because you are on the show with me. Thank you so much for coming on, Banky.
Thanks for having me, bro. Thanks so much.
And I want to say thank you for all the support. I don't know if I've told you this, but thank you for all the support that you gave me during my time of trial. Like, you were one of the pillars that helped me stay strong and believe that people would actually come through for me. You actually told me something. You said that I don't know how much people will respond. I'm paraphrasing now. People will respond when I put it out, because I didn't want to put it out. I didn't want to let people know that I was sick. I was ready to go all the way, and if I passed, I passed. But you were one of the people that said, dude, forget that. Put it out, let people know, and then, take it from there. So once again, I just want to say thank you so much.
Oh, man, don't mention it, man. Don't mention it. And I'm glad you're a survivor and you're a warrior, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you are doing this podcast. I'm very proud of you for taking this step. I think this is a fantastic initiative. So well done.
Thank you very much. So as we start this episode, the episode is titled, You Are Not Alone. There's one thing I want people to understand. The media and entertainment business is not for the faint-hearted. Anywhere in the world, it's not for the faint-hearted. It requires a very, very high level of resilience to be able to navigate the media and entertainment space. And one of my biggest fears when I fell sick was being exposed to the world. Being exposed to everybody as regards not being able to foot my bills. Because I've always been that kind of person where if something happens to me, I put it on my shoulder, and like the Americans say, you pull myself by the bootstraps. You put yourself by the bootstraps and you just go on. Yeah? So, but I had to, because at some point I could not carry the load alone, especially the financial part of the load. I couldn't carry it alone, but I had people that encouraged me to put out what I was going through. So don't get me wrong. Like I said, I paid my way as much as I could, but when it became too tough, I had to put it out for the public to help. And Banky W was one of the people that encouraged me and, gave me the strength to do that. It wasn't until I think a year or two after that I found out that you had your own challenges also. And that was something that made me look at you differently. And yeah, because how in God's name were you able to find strength to tell me to do what I wanted to do when you also, have been through and you had, your own troubles? And how, Banky, how do you find strength? Please.
How do you find strength? only know one way to answer that question.
Please.
And that is honestly saying that you find strength in God.
Yeah.
I think that for me, I learned a long time ago that God was my backbone, God was my foundation, and that there are some things in this life that are bigger than you. And so you need something that is bigger than those things to be able to make it through. And for me, that has always been God. I think, I've had times where I've been closer to him and times where I'm a bit more distant, but he was always there. And that's the great thing about God is he's always there. His grace is always sufficient. He's always that foundation. He's always that rock that you can come back to and you can lean on when you come to the end of yourself. There's a scripture that I've always loved that says, greater is he that is in me
than he that is in the world.
And I always used to say that anything that's in the world. So I always know that regardless of the giant that I'm facing, my God is bigger than that giant. And that's really where I draw the strength from. Now, there are some times where life will really beat you down. Some of the things you've been through that, everybody who's listening to this at some point will face certain situations and trials and tribulations that will really, they'll knock you off your feet. But I think that's what faith is, right? Faith is not, sometimes it can be a shield where it prevents things from happening for you, but sometimes faith is about not just being a shield, but about being a level of strength that will carry you through the rough times. Because yes, God protects us from some things happening, but sometimes he carries us when we're in the middle of these storms and in the middle of these troubles. For me, that's been my life's testimony. God has always come through for me. He's carried me through my darkest days, through my most troublesome times, and I'm still alive and ready to tell the story. So we thank God.
Okay, definitely thanking God. And I will say this also, that God is the reason I'm here. Let's not joke about it. He is the reason I am still alive. There's something I said earlier. I said it's not easy being in the media and entertainment space. When you are popular to a certain extent, people expect that when you go through challenges, you'll be able to carry those challenges, that you'll be able to deal with those challenges. How difficult? Because I remember having a conversation with a PR guru at that point in time before I put out my experience and what I was going through, to solicit help from the public, mentioning to me or telling me at that point in time that my career was going to take a big hit, that I wasn't going to be able to recover from it, because when people start perceiving that you are not capable, and this is not a pun,
I
know. When people look at you and see that you're asking for help, especially when you are, like I said, perceived to be popular and famous, and they in the media space just look at you and say, okay, so this now finesse, the finesse all this while, as in bar no really day, it was all just a facade. How difficult is it to be in the media space and be vulnerable, especially when you have challenges as this?
Yeah, it's extremely difficult, I think, to be vulnerable under the spotlight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult to be vulnerable, period.
Yeah, definitely.
And then when you have the spotlights shining on you, it becomes even that much more of a challenge to be able to open up and tell people, hey, this is who I am, this is my story, my real story, this is what I'm struggling with, this is where I need help or I needed help or whatever the case may be. It's a very difficult thing to do, because also there's almost a sense of pride that you have when you're in entertainment, because you're supposed to be a star, you're supposed to be the person that people look up to, you're supposed to be the person that has it all together. So there's this expectation that society has of you and that you end up having of yourself to say, hey man, I'm supposed to be the guy, that makes this all look good. Like, I'm not supposed to be the one that has any weaknesses or struggles or battles or whatever. I'm a winner and this is what I do. And that, those expectations that society has, that we end up having of ourselves, I think they can be a dangerous thing. I mean, the Bible says pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall.
Yeah.
So sometimes when we give into that sense of pride, and pride really is born out of insecurity, right? Pride and insecurity go hand in hand. So when you meet a very prideful person, that person is probably very insecure, or was very insecure, or is currently insecure about something, and they're trying to overcompensate for it with pride. And so in entertainment, that's one thing that we can very easily fall into, this place of pride or this place of insecurity, where it's kind of going back and forth between being insecure and being prideful, where you're not able to kind of really open up and show people, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm going through. And for me, I would say this. So when I started kind of speaking about my faith, right, I started being a bit more vocal about it. I started teaching in church. I started sharing it online. And there was a day that one of the first times that I shared, a message that I delivered in church on my Instagram. And there was an egbon of mine, like an older brother, for people who are Yoruba, like a kind of an older brother figure, a bit of an older gentleman, successful in business, somebody who had actually given me a lot of business, right? He'd given me gigs before, he'd helped me do some deals. He'd helped me make money, basically, while I'd been an entertainer. And he calls me up one day, shortly after he sees this clip of me preaching. And he says, hey, Banky W, how far, that I really, I enjoyed that message where you post for Instagram. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was great. He said, but you know what? Don't put your messages in church on your social media. He said, because you're an entertainer, you don't want to get
exactly what I was told.
Put in a box about your religion or your faith, or because when you're preaching, you have to tell your real life stories. You have to tell what you're struggling with. You have to tell what God delivered you from. You have to really be vulnerable, right? He said, go ahead, teach in church, do what you got to do, but just keep it in church. Keep your social media neutral, not too overly anything, so that brands who want to identify with you will continue to be able to do that, because you're a clean guy, you're scandal free, there's no issues around you, you're just a very easy guy for brands to work with. And this is somebody who's worked with brands. So he was really saying it from a place of good intentions and trying to really look out for me. But something that I've learned, that you can't get your validation from the comment section. You have to get your validation from God, the God that's inside of you, from who He is and who He has created you to be. And once you do that, then you realize that you can't make decisions based on what the comment section will say. So the same people that said, that hailed Jesus, Hosanna in the highest, he's the king, crown him, when he rode in on the donkey to Jerusalem. 5-6 days later, it's the same crowd that was yelling, crucify him. Yeah. Right? So people are fickle. Their opinions are fickle. They'll love you today. They'll hate you tomorrow. They'll praise you today. They'll drag you tomorrow. And there are two things that I've done that have shown me that: ministry and politics. Those are two things that get people, on very different extremes, right? Immediately I said I was going to run for office. I've never been dragged in my life like I've been dragged in trying to run for office. Like, they will throw stones at you. They will drag your name in the mud. They will write completely false narratives about you just because you decided to follow your heart and do this thing, or speak on this thing, or be vulnerable, or be open, or chase after your dreams, or share, or whatever the case may be. And what I've learned at the end of the day is that really what you have to do is try and be true to God and be true to yourself, and get your validation from God and from who you are, who He's created you to be. And if that means being vulnerable, then be vulnerable. If that means sharing your story, share your story. The one thing that I know is that when you go through stuff and you talk about it, you have no idea who you are helping. You have no idea how many people God will also be able to heal through your own story. And so I've just learned over time, I'm very intentional. My wife and I are very intentional about what we share and when. But we are intentional about saying, hey, okay, we feel this is the right time to tell this story. Just like when we shared the story of how we gave birth to Zaya.
Yeah.
We had 3 failed IVF attempts. We lost twins. And this was all in the same year that I lost the election, and 2019 was an intense year. But we went through all of that and we came out on the other side. And when we finally had him, we'd always said that whenever God answered that prayer, whether it was a week, a month, a year, 10 years, whenever God gave us our child, we would go back and tell people about our pain. We would go back and tell people we'd be vulnerable, we'd share our story, because so many people are living in self-made prisons because we are just not talking about things. We're not talking about what we're going through. We're not talking about infertility. We're not talking about IVF. We're not talking about surrogacy. We're not talking about men who are unable to produce the sperm to have a child. We're not talking about the pressure and the pain. We're not talking about cancer. We're not talking, and this is not just entertainers. This is society. This is African society. We're raised with this mindset of like, don't share it,
and
don't
just
let
say it is well.
Exactly, it is well, it is well. And I'm not even saying it is well from a place of faith. We're just saying it from a place of, I'm not going to share what's hurting me. I'm not going to share what I've been through or what I'm going through right now because I'm worried what people will do with it. And it's a valid fear because the heart of man can be desperately wicked. And people can use your pain to try and hurt you more. Yeah. People can do what you're going through to drag you. But at the end of the day, that's why it's so important not to get your validation from the comment section. Because the people who will be there for you and, like in your case, donate or encourage you or say a word of prayer, they'll be there. And the people who want to drag you or throw stones at you, they'll do it anyway. Whether you share or you don't share. They did it to Jesus Christ. And I don't know about you, but I'm nowhere near a quarter as good as he was.
Yeah.
So if they can do that to him, then how much less you and I? So at the end of the day, I think you just have to learn to be true to yourself and, the stories that you want to tell and being vulnerable when you feel like you need to be vulnerable and let God work out the rest. And, I try not to get wrapped up in the praise or the dragging of human beings. Definitely. I just follow my heart. I do what I believe in. I say what I feel, and and the chips fall where they will, and it is what it is.
Okay, so in my own case, after I put it out, I got an amazing response, a response that till today makes me feel like I've played my Joker in life. That's a story, I shit you not, that's a story for another day, but to be honest, I feel like I've used up all the grace that's impossible. I know. I shouldn't even say that. My words.
It's not possible.
My words.
You can never exhaust the grace of God.
Yes, because like you said, looking at things from the perspective of man, looking at from the eyes of man, it feels like people turning up that much and helping me, from beginning to the end of my journey, just feels like it was so immense that if I was ever, God forbid, I will never be in that position, but would that happen again? And the reason I'm saying this is because how about people on the flip side that put out what they're going through and don't get a response? Because that was a fear. That was a genuine fear from me. I was like, okay, so put it out and then nobody says anything and just be like, okay, you'll be all right. What happens then? Yeah. What do you take from that? How do you move on from that?
Well, so I think it kind of goes back to what we were just saying, right? So it is possible for you to put something out and not get the response that you are praying for.
Yeah.
Why you can't get your validation from external sources, because whether people do come on board or whether they don't, or whether they believe in you or whether they don't, or whether they want to support you or whether they don't. I'll give you a perfect example. I ran for office in 2019.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for the support that I got. I was very disappointed by some of the support that I didn't get. But that's life. Okay, that's human nature. That's just the world we live in. Trust me. We don't see it and we don't say it, so we don't see it. But you have no idea what people are going through in their own lives. You don't know what battles people are fighting, what demons they're struggling with. So somebody may even look great, like they have it all together, but they are down to their last naira and nobody even knows. So again, you can't get so wrapped up in whether people, I mean, you pray that they come and that, they support you or they encourage you or they believe in what you're doing or they try and make themselves available to be vessels for God to use to bless you and to help you in your time of need. But even when that doesn't happen, you still have to remember that God is your source.
Okay.
And whether that means it's going to come through these set of people that you're expecting or not, for me, the lesson is I depend on the grace of God. Whoever that grace comes through is great. Whoever it doesn't come through, that's okay too. Because at the end of the day, God is my source, not any one person.
Okay. So taking it further, everybody listening, this is One Day at a Time. I have Mr. Banky Wellington, probably known as Banky W, on the episode with me today. And the episode is titled, You Are Not Alone. Yeah, so I was going to take it further. What I was going to say is this. Apart from the financial assistance that I needed, one of the things also that I find hard to do is just sharing. And it's still hard because one of the things I also think about is that the people I'm sharing with won't be able to, carry. I'm not asking them to carry my burden. I'm not asking them to carry the weight of what I'm going through, but they won't be able to understand what I am going through. And it might even be too much for them and it might weigh down their spirit, So that's something I think about because not everybody is built to receive certain type of information. In your life, when you're going through stuff, let me just use stuff, yeah? I know you have your wife. I know your wife is there. I know this one is there. But do you actively or deliberately have people that you speak to just so that it doesn't drown you and, I don't know, just set you away from your goal or your journey?
Yeah. So the honest truth is that it is very difficult when you are the person that everybody draws strength and inspiration and faith and encouragement and support and financial assistance from. When you're that person, it can be extremely difficult to not drown in your own issues and in your own sorrows because you start feeling like you don't have that outlet. So the outlet that you provide so readily for anybody that calls you, when you're in the thick of it, you might not have the same thing. And that can be a very lonely feeling. It's possible for you to be surrounded by people
and still be lonely.
Lonely and still be lonely. And so I identify with people who struggle with that because I know what it's like to be the person that people always come to ask for help or assistance.
So you don't want to burden anybody else. You don't want to even share with,
You just, you hunker down and people never realize that you yourself might be going through difficult times because they tend to only see the need that they have. And there's no real easy way to answer that question, honestly. I think it's something that I still, I have my moments where I feel extremely stressed out, extremely drained, extremely, just empty. And that's why I think that having a relationship with God is so crucial because, it's possible for you to run out of whatever it is people are coming to you for.
Yeah.
And be in need with yourself, whether it's money, whether it's faith, whether it's peace, whether it's joy, whatever it is that people are coming to you for, it's very, very possible.
Whether it's advice or a listening ear and all of that. Yeah.
For you to run out of those kinds of resources and then you're stuck looking for where to get a refill yourself. And that's why I think that faith in God is so crucial. And I'm not trying to turn this into a...
No, go ahead.
Church sermon. But I can honestly tell you that if you don't kind of have an active, intentional relationship with God, then you get into those moments and that sunken place can kill you. There's a reason that billionaires commit suicide. There's a reason that people, Robin Williams, Smith, laughed for years.
Yeah.
Laughed for years. I mean, every bone in that man's body was funny.
Yeah.
So how can somebody who gives so much joy to millions upon millions of people all around the world for so many years, be so much in a sunken place that he ends up killing himself.
Yeah.
Anthony Bourdain, the guy who did the
Parts Unknown.
When he did the Lagos version, I sat with him. We were at Quillox. He interviewed me. We had a conversation. Even when the cameras were not rolling, we were talking, we were gisting. And I left that place thinking like, man, this guy has the perfect life. Like, your job is to travel around the world and eat food and chat with people. Like, I was like, man, how do I get into that line of work? Like, that's how blessed.
Sign me up as in sharply.
Just to be traveling, just to eat and chat. Bro, I do this all day. So I left my conversation with him that night thinking like, man, some people have it made in life. So you can imagine how, and may their souls rest in peace. And I'm not trying to kill of them.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like you can imagine how shocked I was when I heard that this guy committed himself
suicide,
from depression. And it's just like, man, you know, see this thing called the mind. That's why the Bible says renew your mind with the word of God. You have to be intentional about that relationship with God, about keeping space for God, keeping God as your foundation, because that's what's going to get you through those dark nights and those tough times and those empty feelings and those drained moments. And just, you know, honestly, that's what I depend on to get me through this life. And so, at the risk of sounding overtly preachy, that's really what I recommend.
You're not sounding preachy, first off. You're just saying it from the heart. I know.
It is what
I know the world is what it is. Yeah. But you're not sounding preachy. Let me just, let you into that. This is a question that I ask everybody that comes on the podcast. And I want to ask you, and be honest with me. Because of the society we're in, because of the magnitude of the disease that I was, affected with back then, did you think that I would make it? Did you have any doubts? There was a point that my voice changed. That
So I gotta tell you something about me, which you probably know by now, or maybe you don't. But I'm a man of faith. As long as I'm alive and there's still breath in my lungs, by God's grace, I will always be a man of faith. So I'll be the person that will see the whole building burning to the ground and will still say, but God, there's still a way. That's just I've learned to wire myself and my mind like that. So
nice.
I honestly did not picture a world in which you wouldn't be here. And that's why I was encouraging you, if you need help, put it out. You never know who will join, because I didn't have the funds to help you out by myself. Like I couldn't
but
carry
you found it.
The financial weight of that alone.
Leave it.
Yeah, well, I contributed, but at the end of the day, that's why I was like, because here's the thing about faith, right? The Bible says faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
Faith means I believe God is going to do this, but then I also have to participate in this process.
Yeah.
So what do I have to do? Okay, so I'm praying, I kneel down, I pray, God, sort this matter out for me. Then I get up off my knees, I go out and I take whatever steps I need to take to make this thing come true. And then God blesses my efforts and opens doors and brings in resources and help and partners to get me there. That's why I was trying to encourage you at the time, like, this is what I can do, but Uche, put this thing out, man. Take the steps, be bold, be courageous, let it out there. Let's see who else will contribute to chip in, because see, there are people that sit in the house and cry. There's this story about a man that was drowning or something. I don't know the exact details, but it's a man that was drowning, and somebody came on a canoe and he said, no, I'm waiting for God to save me. And somebody came on a speedboat. I'm waiting for God to save me. Then somebody came in a helicopter and he said, no, I believe my God is going to come through for me. And then the guy drowned. And then he gets to heaven and he says, God, but I prayed, I had faith. And God said, man, I sent you a canoe, I sent you a ship,
I sent you a helicopter.
So sometimes it's just reaching out and taking steps. And I think, that's, David had to kill Goliath, right? God needed to give him the wisdom and the strength to kill Goliath, but he still had to kill Goliath.
Yeah.
he still has to take those steps. So that's what I believe faith is. It's a belief and then it's an action. They work hand in hand. So I believed that you would make it. I took my own actions by trying to contribute resources, financial and or encouragement and just all of that. But then you had to do that too. You had to believe that I'm going to make it through this thing. If I need to put my story out and get help from everybody, then that's what I got to do. But if you didn't do that, who's to say what would have happened? But I'm glad that you did, and I thank God for your life that you're still here with us.
Okay. Banky W. There's something I wanted to say, but I'll say it. Okay, Banky, first off, thank you for agreeing to do this. I want to say to everyone listening, you are not alone. With what you're going through, you are not alone. There are people that love you. There is love out there for you. God is looking out for you. There are people that will be there to help you go through what you're going through, as long as you believe that you're not alone and then you have faith that it is not the end. That thing that you're going through is not the end. You have seen your life beyond that point. That was what kept me, actually. I told God that I've seen my life beyond that point, that I'd seen so much. And if that so much hadn't happened, then this couldn't be the end. There was no way it could be the end. So that was one of the things that kept me through my dark time. So if you're listening, it's not the end. Your life is more than where you are right now, more than the challenge that you're facing. You have told yourself that you will build a house, that you would do this, you've established so much. So why do you think that this is the end? It's not the end. There's so much in store for you. Banky, once again, thank you for coming on the show.
Bless you. Much love.
Thank you so much. One Day at a Time podcast, the episode You Are Not Alone, comes to an end here. My name is Uche Agbai, known in the media space as Sensei Uche. You can check me up on social media at Sensei Uche. That's my handle across all platforms. Look out for the next episode. Until then, keep living one day at a time.